Did I ever ask you, Chris, what is the biggest mistake you made in your whole career? If you would have to choose one mistake.
One mistake.
I know you made a lot
Gonna,
of,
you didn't, you didn't mind going, well,
just one. Give me one that stands out the most when it comes to the mistakes you make, because I know you made a few. But which one would you tell yourself that was the biggest one? We all make mistakes. I made plenty.
could be
Me,
financially, could be physically.
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If you look back at your career, what was the biggest mistake?
Mm,
I know that's a hard question.
well, yeah, yeah. I think when I get money, you know, getting some real estate. Get this, I mean, I look at it now, every time I see Starbucks, I had 40, 50, whatever in the bank at any given time of the day,
So
month.
your regret is not to
That's
invest
it.
the money.
That's
Yeah,
it better.
that makes that's huge regret for sure.
And I was sitting there next to Red Bull at the after one of Arnold's. I was at the Legends table. I got invited for that, and this guy from Red Bull handed me a card. Said, "Hey man, we're trying to get into bodybuilding, and we would like to, talk to you more about it. We have an energy drink." And at the time, I'm like, energy drink? There was no one ever heard of Red Bull at the time.
Yeah, but listen, we had a point where, if we could turn back the time, yeah, I would jump on Amazon when they started, because
Yeah.
we don't know,
But
Bitcoin.
actually, I'm sure I took the card and just, did
Yeah.
whatever with
Or
it.
I would have, or I would have bought shares at the UFC, That's why, Milos. What was your biggest regret?
You guys know that. I mean, I talk about it. Synthol use,
Okay.
literally, and I do want to emphasize this, even though look at this fool, and I embarrass myself for talking, but literally ruined my career completely. Because by '97, right, I was not the top tier, but I would be top 10 Olympia. On a good day, I would beat Chris. I beat him twice that year, right? I mean,
Chris who?
you're there. You are in a mix, right? But then in 98, I lost my Wheeler contract, and it was like my daughter was born, and I needed some pressure and stuff like that. So then 99, I went for a size just like to blew up, and then I blew up my arms,
Did you
and
go? Did you go talk to Joe when you lost it, or did you?
I thought you were still with Rita in the early 2000s.
yeah, no, there was I signed for half of the contract, so there was
Also,
take it or
you
leave it.
you re-signed with him afterwards.
Yeah, I signed it, but there was a take it or leave it kind of thing, and some money is better than no money, right? But that puts pressure, especially with this kid is born and had a house and all that stuff. But anyway, synthol use is absolutely uh, biggest regret of my life.
You ended up in the hospital, yeah.
No, not for that. No, I end
Oh,
up in the hospital for a shot that I got, wrong shot that was intravenous, and I got that
oh,
ARDS, acute respiratory
something.
syndrome.
Yeah.
That was, but it's not due to synthol. It was not synthol shot.
Oh, okay.
You
That's not.
know, but we talk
I
about
thought it was. I thought it was. It didn't.
it was
A regular shot in the triceps.
a regular shot. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
regular shot. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up, huh?
Hey, but don't you see like a lot of guys that they feel like they can just inject anywhere and there's no consequence to
That's
their
what I'm saying.
But a lot of people get away with it. It happens to
and
some,
then
but
and then that one time, there
yeah.
you go.
But
Yeah.
I would say most people get away with it, just not even knowing what they're doing and just blasting, and they get away with it. That's why.
Anyway,
That's why they give advice to younger kids. That's what you got to do. Don't even. It's all right, because they don't know what can go wrong.
right.
I mean, but you see, for this, they can get away with it. The quality of the muscle, start diminishing. You could see losing separation, changing
Yeah.
anatomic shape of the
Losing
muscle.
separation and
And then, you know how it is? Greed. I mean, I'm a perfect example. Oh, my arm grew 1 inch. Oh, let me just try a little bit more. Two,
yeah,
two.
more, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that's how it goes.
So Milos, so at what point did you say, okay, this doesn't even look real, man, I got to stop?
Yeah, 99, I competed at Ironman and Arnold Classic. It was decent, okay. But then by the Canada Pro, I made my biceps look like a Mount Everest, right?
But how many shots does this take to go from having a biceps
Mount
peak,
Everest.
for having a biceps
Mount
peak
Everest,
to
right?
having a biceps that looked like a foot?
I mean, it was pretty much daily 3 cc.
Daily?
Yeah.
Oh,
Damn.
fuck.
Hey, why is Monday better than Tuesday or Tuesday better than Wednesday?
Is it what?
Flex,
Yeah.
we're just talking about the biggest regret and when you look back at your career, what is the thing that stands out the most that you regret that you would, if you could just take it back or just wipe it off the whole damn?
Same thing, my shoulders. Milos's biceps, my shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It was a thing back then. It was new. It wasn't looked down upon. It wasn't frowned upon. Almost everybody did it, and it was just like one of those things that just came across the sport that just, it was just accepted and everything, and only after I think after the '98 Olympia that I started regretting it, that I thought it was out of control.
But here, just like Milos just said, he puts in 3 cc's every day. I mean, that alone sounds crazy to me because.
Oh no, I did a weekly. So just every time I trained shoulders, I did.
But Flex, you had genetically gifted round muscle already.
Yeah, and no, it was
So
just a
made
mistake. It was just a mistake. I remember.
But it made it look like really cartoonish on you.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? What first came out that you still had striations and everything?
Ethically.
Yeah. So it was and secondly, and I used that for the USA. Somebody told me about that. Somebody on the show right now. I won't say their name unless they admit to it.
Don't say his name, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, but it wasn't Milos. But that's how I learned about it. And, so that's how I learned about the whole thing. So, again, in my ignorance, and that went over well. And then, I'm just, because we're just telling the truth about everything. I mean, it was very prevalent back then. Kevin bought out the market. He literally bought out the market of Untitled. You couldn't get it anymore anywhere. And then came this, at first it was called Pump and Pose.
Yeah.
And the first time I used it, I was like, oh, okay.
Christopher Clark, Germany.
Yeah, Pump and Pose. And you know what? I think that was probably a cleaner version of whatever it was. But in my ignorance, people say, okay, well, that muscle isn't yours. I mean, everything I did, it wasn't me. Yeah, I wasn't natural anymore. So I just didn't get it when they said, this is cosmetic and this isn't, because I'm like, it's all cosmetic. We don't look like that naturally. So what's the difference of putting on lipstick and blush? So,
yeah.
And then it just got out of control. And then I remember Rico and Chris telling me, hey man, you're good. You could stop, you know what I mean? And I didn't see it now, right? Because, now I look at my photos, and I get really upset about it because, my chest is striated, my back is striated, but my shoulders aren't. But back then, it wasn't a thing. Not many people had crazy striated shoulders back then. So, it's just different times for different eras. At this point in time in my life, if I was competing, I wouldn't do it because I can see it now. The internet is out. I can see all the damage. I can hear about all the stories. But back then, it was just so new. You know, and I was just eager to get down, man. And I
What
just,
about what about the hamstrings? Can you tell us a little bit about that part? Because people today are shooting in the hamstrings but they don't want to admit it. But it's like to have that big loop and they say they want the hamstring drop. To me, I hate to hear it because I'm like, naturally your hamstrings don't drop down like this. Not naturally. You have to do something there.
Okay,
And
hold your thought, Chris, because you just said hamstrings. Now, naturally, you say they don't drop.
not like the way people are thinking that they're trying to make it seem like that's the goal. The goal is not that. The goal is to have detailed hamstrings. I had big hamstrings, you know that,
Yeah.
but they never dropped like
But
that. But I
now,
had
but
nice hamstrings.
for that, I have a
And there's no
question.
cuts there.
For that, I have a question to Flex because I remember when I saw you walking, you used to wear, this is in the late 90s. You walk into fucking Firehouse, you would wear nothing but tights, hot skins, and your hamstring would stick out to the point where I was like, what the fuck is this? Look at the hamstrings. They would just pop out like this, standing there. Was that synthol too?
yeah, I did once. So here's the thing. I did my arms once. And because I had naturally big arms, when I trained them, my skin actually ripped. I could see it tearing, you know, these tiny tears, and I didn't like that. So I never did my arms again, even though people think my arms were always jacked. I did my hamstrings once, and I remember I was training with Chris and Rico, and they got so pumped I had to walk out.
Yeah.
You know, so I only did it once. So I don't think one time benefit me to have my hands hanging so much. If you go back and look at, you know, my earlier competitions, the USA and even the Mr. California, I just had big hammies. I just had hanging hamstrings. And I do know there are some people out there who naturally just have just freaking hanging off hamstrings that don't do anything. So, but I did once, but it was a mistake. It got too pumped. I just couldn't take it. You know, I was like, okay, that ain't going to work. And, you know, I mean, obviously, just like I'll come out and say, just like I did my calves. And I learned that from Paul Dillette. You know, I mean, you know, he stayed with me for a while and he used to do certain body parts. And I was like, what is that? I was like, well, you know, the way he explained it to me is like, you know how like when you inject your butt and you get this inflammation, you know, it's the same thing in a muscle and it just helps the muscle look bigger. And I was like, oh, okay. So I only used actually whatever I was injecting, I used into that muscle. I didn't use, you know, in cycling or pump and pose or anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that was just my biggest mistake too. My calves were crazy. I had both sides. There's pictures where you see like in the Honor Classic in '93, my calves are just crazy, both sides.
Oh, that was already back in '93 you had used it?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying I regret it because I had naturally great calves.
I was about to say.
Yeah, no, I just stupid, man. Just, you know, huge regret.
Now, question for all you guys, because you guys know, you guys observe, you guys can see. I don't know how many people back in the time used synthol, because to me, this was, I had even no idea.
Well, there's regular stuff too, not just synthol. Just
Got you. But especially synthol, because I see people that I know they use synthol. When they stop, does that muscle atrophy to the point where you lose that muscle completely?
Not completely, but there is fibrosis and necrosis. If necrosis, it atrophies. That's that tissue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens. Each injection is trauma. Every time the needle goes in, right? And then what you inject. And
like a surgical knife. Like a surgical knife.
So I tell you, as Black said, he blew up his calves. I never had a great calves, but I had decent calves. I had everything, you know, soleus and gastros left and right. But then, inspired by my arms blowing up. I say, how about if I blow up the calves? And by 99, I had a stupid calves. Okay. And they're atrophied. They're gone.
Yeah.
They left the building. You know,
That's the building.
you know, I tease all these guys about being flamingos. My calves are flamingos, right?
So,
And,
so you contribute that to shooting them
Yeah.
with synthol?
I think it's nerve damage. What happens? So it just depends on how often you inject it, and then that inflammation from whatever chemical you're injecting in there, whether it damages that nerve or not. But I know Milos is admitting what he did. I'm admitting what I did. Dennis, you said you never did anything,
What? Synthol?
inject anything.
but
Yeah.
who, me?
No.
No, Milos, you're admitting
No,
that you
no,
did.
no.
And I'm admitting, but Chris, are you admitting that you did anything?
Chris said he never used it.
Not synthol.
Huh?
No,
Oh,
I never
okay.
used synthol.
All right.
No,
Just
I wasn't.
just
I
in
mean,
settling.
I had a bottle of it, and I just gave it to someone else. I never really was. I thought it looked stupid. I didn't like the look
How
of
did you
it.
get it in the first place?
How did you get your hands on it? How did you get your hands on it?
Listen, I'm a guy.
Oh,
listen,
it just flew into your living room. No, I
you want me
feel
to incriminate myself? Okay.
no, I feel you.
People came from Europe with suitcases of stuff, so I was buying up stuff, and sometimes I purchased, sometimes I got rid of it.
Okay.
All
All right. To answer your question, Flex, I did Clean once in my life in one calf because I didn't know what it was. I was still in Thailand. I was early. I just started training. I don't even know. I think I did one universe. And this guy from Italy, who's a good friend of mine for all these years I was there, Piero Colucci. He told me about Clean. I said, what is it? He said, oh, this is make your muscle grow. He said, temporary, but I said, let me try. He put that shit in my calf. That shit hurt so bad that I didn't fuck with it.
Yeah.
It was too much.
And that's what I mean. I mean, it was a time where we didn't know what it was, and certain of us were using it, and it's just like, it takes time to figure things out, like it took time for them to figure out the COVID, thing was a lie, and we should have never gotten vaccinated. But at that time, it was just so new and pure. So, yeah, like I said, I made a mistake.
I knew about it. I mean, there was this guy in Germany, Germany or Austria, Manfred Herbel. He was the first one that used to run around with them huge arms. He used to walk around at the FIBO. He was the one that used it.
Oh, yeah.
He was basically the poster child for synthol.
Yeah.
You remember the guy?
Yeah, shaking
Tall. He looked like
a plaid cut off shirt.
Yeah, he was kind of like I don't know, was he like a power lifter or a strong man or something to that extent? And he was the promotion for this Christopher Clark. And I've been accused of synthol in my chest. They accuse me because I have these two muscles here. You only see them when I get lean. And I squeeze. You see that this is like this is a separate muscle. I don't know why. Milos, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So people accuse me of putting synthol in my chest. I was like, why would I put synthol here to get this lump?
Yeah.
So no, I can tell you on my body, there's not a single synthol shot. I put all my gear in my lats. I can tell you that. I did that for years. I stopped shooting my ass and then put everything.
Did you ever get atrophy in your lats?
Absolutely. That's why I'm bringing this up, because my lats, I can tell they're atrophied. Well, not to the I mean, it's not like 100% gone, but I say 80%. Because there was, you constantly create scar tissue, and it was at the end of the day, that's what it was.
And then the circulation when you get older is not there, and you need that circulation.
Yeah, I don't know, but why do people not walk around with no ass?
I don't. You know what? I didn't. To my first time getting a shot in my glute, and the blood flew across the damn room. I never went back to my glutes ever.
So where did you put it?
Everything is my shoulders and
Oh, really?
That was it. Yeah. I was scared to death of my glutes.
How was your
I was big already anyway.
How are your shoulders today?
not good.
Okay.
Not good for circulation, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
why
I
that's
wonder.
why I talk about it a lot, because it's like but I mean, where else am I gonna put it? I gotta put it somewhere. I wasn't going to my quads. I never did in my quads, and I was
Wow,
a
too
lot of
many
these guys.
nerve endings down there, man.
Yeah, but people are doing it, and I see it.
I can't
I see it.
understand that. Wow, your
I got
quads.
a photographic memory, so when I see someone's physique, and then I see it different the next day, I see the difference. Like a lot of people don't see it like that, but I do. So I would just say I never did that in my quads at all. So, but my shoulders took hell. They
I
like,
think it was obvious who did it in their quads because it was well, not everyone has cross striations when they squeeze down, but I
yeah,
had them, you had them, Sean had them. You
yeah.
know, Kevin never squashed down. You know what I mean? So
Milo's had him.
Thank you,
yeah,
Dennis.
yeah.
I got you, man. I got you.
But
Yeah.
he said,
Yeah,
Don't get his head up there,
No,
Dennis.
even Chris
I've always
doesn't
told his
believe
legs
it.
were smooth.
Chris didn't believe he had him, so Milo's had to pull out a receipt.
no, Milos had cross striations.
Yeah.
I know, but I kept telling him his legs were smooth.
yes. But you guys train at Venice Golds. There was that Nautilus with the chains leg extension.
Yes.
Yeah,
I swear to God, for me, I started seeing the feathers once I started using that one. I had it in San Diego, because there's resistance is all the way to the top. At the end, there was the most of it. So if you go all the way to the end and lock it, like holy shit! Like first time you see it, like what's that? And then with each set, another rep, like holy shit! That's how I started getting them. I didn't have it initially.
yeah. Do you guys agree that that leg extension helps uh, make definition and cross striations
Yeah,
when you
For sure.
squeeze down your quad?
I just said it. Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe it.
100%. Yeah,
but
100%.
yeah, man, that shit. So I didn't realize that Milos never really came to goals that much. I didn't realize that.
Maybe 5 times in my life for the photo shoots.
I just saw your ass on every damn cover, so I was just like, I just assumed you had
He
your
was he was at the beach doing shoots while we training, right?
yeah, with the hair.
All right, guys, let's get back to Detroit Pro coming up. Flex, you aware
Yeah,
of
hold on. Dennis,
yeah.
you didn't say what was your regret.
My regret? I still know.
Yeah,
I think I said this a few times. My regret was trying to chase size to the point where I literally fucked up my physique. That's my ultimate regret. If I could turn back the time, I would still listen to you, Milos, but I wouldn't go as hard. Chasing size. Unfortunately, it was Ronnie, and then I watched you guys, Flex, trying to chase size because of Ronnie.
Yeah.
I'm doing
Yeah.
just what everybody else was trying to do.
Yeah.
Except me.
The only problem, well, it's easy to say when you maybe, not everybody,
But when everyone started using the
Yeah.
insulin and stuff like that, I didn't start. I waited another 5 years
Right.
down the road. I was like, I'm
But-
gonna let you guys do that and see how I have.
Yeah, but
see
you
what-
also know, just because there's a lot of people that try the same, but their body just wasn't built to get much bigger.
Yeah.
Some people can just get to a certain point and then don't matter what you do.
No matter what they do.
You know, and for
Yeah.
me, my body was just like, okay, if that's what you want to do, let's grow. But we all grow. Everything's growing. So that's my regret. Absolutely.
You grew up, if I remember correctly, 44 pounds in this first 4 weeks.
I don't remember exactly, but
I
it
do.
was something crazy for sure. Yeah. And it's just basically just doing what everybody else was doing, or a lot of people. I didn't.
Which was what?
Insulin.
Insulin.
Oh, really? Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
something that
Hey,
always
and then,
terrified me.
hey, and then another one more, since we're on this regret. This is my 1A regret, is when if something's going on with you, like go to the doctor. Don't not go and think you can just get some antibiotics or some shit from a friend, because I had in my shoulder I had, I could still feel it, like scar tissue here. But I'm telling you, I was in Amsterdam and I was just taking a boatload of stuff at that time. came back to America, I started to sweat. One time I was doing an appearance, and I started to sweat, and I was like, I called a friend, hey, can you give me some antibiotics, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't test your blood or whatever,
Why would you take antibiotics? Because you're sweating?
I had an infection.
Oh, you had an abscess.
Abscess coming on my
Okay,
shoulder.
got you.
Didn't drain it?
So that changed my whole career because this is when I was 295 pounds. I got the Olympia coming up. I want to shock the world. I was on my way to go train with Dorian. I was going to be out there in Europe, in England for the last 12 weeks for the Olympia, and that was going to be the end for everybody because I felt like that was the last missing piece of something to where I'm just locked down and I'm there. I have nothing else to do with that. And then I never made it because I was actually in New Jersey when the pain, it came down a little bit from those antibiotics I took, but it didn't kill it off. So it came back in the middle of my spine, and that's what changed my whole career.
Oh, it traveled from your shoulder to your spine.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I had a spinal infection, and that's when I got, the coma, the paralyzed, and couldn't move. And I watched myself lose 60 pounds, and that right there was the one determining factor that ended my run right there.
So what are you saying? If you feel like you have an infection, go get it looked at, get some antibiotics.
Yeah, don't take matters in your own hands.
Yeah.
I think no matter what, these athletes should get, like I think Milo should do the same thing. I have my athletes do blood work before they ever work with me. That way I got a marker where they're at. I make them do blood work at the hottest point just before show. And then, 6 to 9 weeks after a show, do another blood work. That way we can see where they started, where they were at their worst, and how much more did they go back to where they started before. And if it starts getting too wide of a degree of from when they started to where it went back to, I'm like, hey, this is happening. You might want to, have a conversation with yourself to see, if this sport is for you.
So, but why would you have him do blood work before the show? So what if the blood work comes back looking crazy? You tell him, get off?
Oh, I tell him 100%. Because a lot of times, like Chris said, we don't know something's going on. We're athletes. We're used to this. We're used to having pains here. We're used to pushing through.
But what do you think?
I go through just to get a marker to see how healthy they are. And they might have something hidden that I don't know about.
I know, but
don't the numbers get out of whack anyway?
Exactly. And I don't think that you will be able to tell how healthy he is just by the markers if he's fucking full on gear, getting ready for a show, super dehydrated.
Well, that's why I say that I have them, do blood work before they work with me, and they have to be off already. Yeah. If they're running a cycle when we start, I'm like, go ahead, just finish that cycle or quit that cycle. Take 9 weeks off, and then we'll do the blood work. Those are just requirements. I mean, people have died, and I don't want nobody on my conscience that I hurt them or something like that.
So now I'll play an athlete. You prep me and you tell me to do blood work. I do blood work. You say, okay, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do another blood work because you tell me so after I've been on fucking Anadrol or who knows what. And my shit's all over the place. Now you're going to tell me, okay, you got to come off.
No. So we do blood work. If your blood work comes back that is all over the place, of course you got to come off. It's a decision you're going to make. I'm just making suggestions.
I hear you. I hear you, and I'm just giving you a case as an athlete that thinks I'm going to be.
I got you.
I want to be Mr. Olympia. Now you're telling me come off. I said okay. You tell me come off, and I'm not coming off. So because you're saying I don't want anybody dying on my watch. How can you control what these guys do? You're not with them. You don't sleep next to them. You don't watch them because if you tell them come off, they're gonna do something. I'm not saying all of them.
I hope not.
I'm not saying all of them, but from my experience, I tell you this: 90% of them do not come off, and you tell them to come off.
Well, their blood work will show it though. Certain things will show.
These guys, but I'm telling you, most of these guys, they don't really give a fuck.
You know what? I don't coach a lot of guys.
Maybe it changed.
It's just a lot of things I just won't do. I just can't. I can't do it.
Maybe it changed a little bit.
I don't have a lot of people that I coach.
Yeah, maybe it changed a little bit because You know, it's been a lot of people dying in the last 3 to 5 years. So maybe that changed a lot of minds. I hope it did. But
Yeah.
you know, Milos and Chris would probably know more about that. Did that change? Are guys starting to be more careful, or they just say, "I want to win this show. I don't care if I die 5 years early"?
Yeah. Well, remember that they have that questionnaire before, and
Correct, brother.
Dorian said this in his interview, that they question if you can win Mr. Olympia and die in 5 years, how many guys are going to go for it? And majority said they would.
Yeah.
No way. I
There are
wouldn't.
two things. Two things.
No, they like shave off years of their life.
With
towards the end.
Chris, what you were saying, you had an abscess, okay? I had at least 10 guys, myself included, that I had to drain, infection. Because if you don't, that shit can happen, right? You're gonna get probably antibiotics, the cocrixine, whatever they would give you, but this had to be drained. So, of course, we are not medically licensed, so we should not give medical advice. But back in the day, there was Dr. Scruggs. I don't know if you guys remember that guy. And he would make little incisions and drain it. But I understood that if you find the pocket, okay, and shit, it can come out. And that's how you usually start, okay? They will tell you before you go to the hospital.
Look at Flex's face.
I went
Yeah.
Wow.
to UCLA. Hey, I went to UCLA Medical, and they did an incision. They drained it out, but then they packed it with that.
Yeah, you can't close it because it's got to heal. It's got to heal from inside. Yeah.
Yeah, so that took a while to do that, and kept packing it and pulling it out, packing. That was
nasty shit.
I guarantee you, yeah. But it's
That's
gonna
the
be
proper way.
a bunch of scars.
So what's that contributed to mostly? Is it a dirty needle? Is it dirty gear? What is it?
I don't even know really.
Usually it was water-based shit, like either Vinstrol or test suspension, right? That is prone to
It
infection.
don't have to be that. Like sometimes is it just a not cleaning it properly or what?
Yeah, absolutely. How many guys use the same needle more than once?
Oh, hell no.
What?
What?
Oh my God! Listen, I don't understand. I had one of top
You ain't got the numbers on it no
top
more?
Olympic competitors. Listen. You gotta see that.
Milo, you don't have the
Hey.
numbers on the syringe no more?
Listen, he wanted to do it. He wanted to do it in the chest. Okay, so and I know you're freaking out, Dennis, because I would never inject chest in my life. So he had a 10cc big syringe, not the one that you usually load other shit. And then he would have that inch and a half, 21 gauge. So it's not.
Dang.
And then the perf, 2cc,
Come on.
2cc, 2 and 2. With the same one. And then by the third shot, you can hear the needle like, and then poof, ripped through the skin like, holy fuck. Hey, let me tell you. Then he did another 10cc on the other side with the same needle because he only had one needle.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
He did that in front of you?
In front of me.
Oh my goodness.
I said, I don't want to mention I keep saying things. But the other point that Flex was saying, if you get the guys on all the pre-contest drugs, and there's a lot of orals and anti-estrogens, and let's say if you do Anadrol and switch to Holtestin and, Anavar, blah, 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 everything has to go through the liver, first pass, okay? And liver enzyme is going to go through the roof. I mean, it could not be even, considered, oh, this is healthy. It's like through the roof, 10 times more. But at that time, it's not necessarily that the liver is damaged and affected. It's just processing everything, overworking. And I have my brother-in-law, he was here at UCLA for liver transplant surgery studies, and I have a book here somewhere. When he saw my liver enzymes, it was quite elevated. He's like, yeah, you're taking this, and that. You have to have liver enzymes. It's response to what is going through. It doesn't mean the damage. So if you really do put the guys on whatever 12-week cycle pre-contest, and some of those things they're going to elevate the liver enzymes. It's not necessarily, oh my God, like doctors would see results. They're going to just freak out because when they see results, they don't know what had caused it. If it's damage, then okay, cirrhosis of the liver, okay, okay. But if it's due to the medication, and not just that, then people would take aspirin, they would take clenbuterol, they would take ephedrine, they would take everything goes through it and affects it. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't go in a panic mode for liver enzymes. But because you're here, I do remember we were 93 in Germany and you didn't compete, but they took you to German hospital, right? And
Yeah.
they didn't let you compete, but then you
Yeah.
compete next day in England.
Yeah. 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 That was due to diuretics. Remember, who was it gave me a diuretic that had like 3 different levels of pull of it. Because I was just old school. I was just using Aldactone,
Yeah.
and somebody gave me something else, and it pulled and it worked, and then we're all eating pizza afterwards. And my stomach just started doing these weird things, and then my arms start locking up and everything, and they end up taking me to the hospital, and all
Who
they
was
did
it?
was, huh?
Who was it? Kevin was there.
Huh?
Kevin was at that show.
You
I
were
love
there, I think.
Kevin, Sam, the Sonny,
I think it was Sunny.
Claremont. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Sunny. And I think because
Yeah.
I didn't want to say because our boy's not here anymore, right? But I think it was Sunny because I remember either you or Vince yelling at him and saying, "Man, you can't give him that. He don't know nothing about that yet." And I'm
Right.
looking at you guys arguing, and I'm sitting up there cramping like, "Man, what's going on?" But so yeah, they just took me to the hospital and they kept me overnight and they IV'd me, and I was ready the next day, and I came and I took the flight with you guys to Germany, and I took a Aldactone just to get ready because I was going to compete that night. Right when I got off the airplane, I just locked up again. I was like, all right, it's a wrap. I'm done.
Yeah.
I end up having to go to the hospital there.
I kind of remember that supposedly German doctors established that some of your organs were enlarged.
Yeah, no, what they said was they said that was one of the first times it was a hint that I had a kidney problem because they're like, your kidneys completely failed. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you're going to have to go on dialysis. And Robin was getting ready to fly down there, and Madeline was getting ready to fly down there. And within that 24-hour period of being dialysis, my numbers went back to normal. And they were like, how is that possible? So it was just telltale signs that, I forgot what my creatinine was at that time. I think it was like 5. And after they dialyzed me, it went back down to 0.2 or something like that. So those were just the first signs that I started having kidney problems. And then, as you guys all knew, after a show, I would balloon up overnight, 30 or 40 pounds.
Remember you just won that one show and we were at your house, me and you and Rico, and then you was eating a pizza and you was like, man, look at this. And you was like, you pressed.
Yeah, because if I can push a huge.
What was that? Was that an Iron Man? Was that
Yeah. Yeah. And so now knowing those are just signs that there was a kidney problem. I just never understood it. I just like, wow, I rebound really hard,
Yeah.
And then it started getting harder and harder to get in condition. And like I said, I just used to use Aldactone and Aldactazide. That was my thing. I didn't know that there was better things out there And I just started loading up on those, and they wouldn't work. And I remember the first time I used diazide, and they were like, this is really strong, and I used it, it didn't work. And that's when the last time I competed is the Ironman, and Melvin ended up beating me. Man, huh?
I was there. I remember that whole story.
Yeah, and I just couldn't. It was nothing I can do to get water off. I was like, God dang, okay, well, it's my first show since I came back. I'm going back on drugs. Maybe it's going to take me a couple of weeks. I'll be ready for the the Arnold Classic. And that next Sunday was a week off, and then the following Sunday was going to be the Ironman. But that next Sunday after the Ironman, I ended up in the hospital, and it was a wrap. It was all over with. So, but they had told me that that I had this disease, but they just didn't know anything about it. Like I said, at the time, the only other athlete who had it was Lonzo Mourning, and he hadn't. They wouldn't give me his name. They just said, it's another pro athlete who has the same disease. But and I'm like, well, I know I did this because of the things I've done, and it's like, no, because he has the same thing, and he didn't do anything that you did. So this wasn't caused, by the things that you're using. So and then we go further back. When I was 18, I got tested, and I had protein in my urine way back then. So those are just like, now those are markers to help a person understand you got a kidney problem going on, or you have a weaker kidney or whatnot.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So let's
you remember
try.
that, Chris? I used to push like 2 inches. I can just take my freaking my calf and just push my thumb in it, and it will just stay there forever.
But I also know that, if you use Aldactone, you're prone to rebound a little more than with other diuretics.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't know. You know what? I mean, I always talk to everybody about what I use. It didn't matter to me. Chris, you knew what I was using. Dennis, I answered every question. If we were close, I talked about it. It didn't matter, but no one never told me, oh, man, there's a new diuretic. Try this one. This is harsh. I mean, think about it. Here we are, I'm doing like my last Ironman, and I'm still using Aldactone.
Wait.
I think people still use it today, right, Milos?
Yeah. But can I say, Flex? Because I don't know if some things should be said, some shouldn't be. But I prepared you for that show. And day before, your wife called me because you locked up. And I drove to your house and carried you. You remember?
No.
That's so long ago. Here we go.
Okay. Deja vu. So you're supposed to do much less diazide, but you took more because, somebody told you that, you need to use more because you don't process the
Was that for the Ironman?
Ironman, yeah. That's the only show because we never made it to the Arnold Classic. But that day, I remember I was rushing from a Coliseum gym to your house, and you were all locked up. And then you told me you used much more than you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Because they don't, work.
When you say much more, how much was he supposed to use?
You know what? I used to pyramid up. Like Monday, I would take like 25.
You're talking Aldactone now.
Yeah, Aldactone.
Yeah.
And diazide at the end?
Yeah, and then I would switch over to diazide at the end because if I understood, diazide had Aldactone and something else in it that pulled. So if I understand correctly, Aldactone just lowers your aldosterone level, which allows you to lose water. And then there was another agent that you took that actually pulled the water.
What about the Aldactone too?
Aldactone is what I use. That's what I use. So I used Aldactone, and then I would switch over to use Aldactone. Yeah.
No, but that time you used diazide. I remember very well.
Yeah. That's the first time I used diazide because I wasn't getting in shape. The water wasn't coming
Well,
out.
if you used Aldactone before, that means you used diazide because it's the same thing, but together with Aldactone.
Yeah, together.
Okay, let's when you mentioned Aldactone is spironolactone and hydrochlorothiazides, 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Aldactone is spironolactone, but diazide is hydrochlorothiazide and triamterene.
Okay.
So it's not the same. So here you have a 3, over there you have.
Yeah, I was talking about the hydrochlorothiazide because that's the
Yeah, yeah,
combination with aldactone. There's
But the thing is, yeah, I'll tell you, I said that story. I have to say it again. I've seen Flex in January 17, and he was completely not in shape that can remotely compete in like 3 months from there, right? And he made that shape in 3 weeks because originally we were going to do the Arnold Classic 5 weeks from then.
Yeah.
As he was changing by a minute, Dennis, Chris, you've never seen anything in your life. Like
I've seen him.
a skinny fat,
Hey, Chris, like I see it.
hey, skinny fat. Next day is just fat. Next day is not so fat and just going up, right?
Yeah.
And 3 weeks out, he says, you know what? Let's do the Ironman. So he was not 100% on, but he was second after prejudging, behind crazy looking 2003 Jay Cutler. That was crazy looking. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
And then Melvin beats you in a posing round.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how close it was.
Yeah. Melvin holds that over my throat. I beat you once. I'm like, dude, you beat me a week before I had kidney failure. How healthy do you think I was?
A 3-week prep.
Yeah.
A 3-week prep. That's it.
I know, but yeah, I listen, guys, and Chris likes to do that too. Yes.
What do you mean I like to do?
Hold on. If you let me finish talking, I'll tell you. You know, yes, you had a week later you had kidney failure, but you still got on stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he beat you that day. It doesn't matter.
No, he did. 100%.
It doesn't matter. It's the same with Chris.
100%.
Chris always says, "Yeah, but I wasn't 100%."
No, because I don't say that about. I don't consider myself that I beat Riska Sperry, even though his last show I won that show and he was probably.
Well, the score sheet will tell you that you beat him.
I beat Riska Sperry.
I get you. But the score sheet will say that you beat him. So that's just it. You know, I don't like when people trying to find excuses afterwards. Well, I wasn't at my best. Yeah. Well, how many times were you at your best in your whole career, Flex?
Yeah. Not many. Not many.
About 3 times.
Not many.
3 times.
Not many.
I know what Flex told me. But I'm going to ask you too. Dennis, the best Flex feeler for you?
Oh, you asked me already. And for me, it's crystal clear. No doubt about
Flex
it.
is going to listen. But okay.
Flex
I'm
knows.
going to analyze.
Flex knows because I posted the picture. Flex in 93 Arnold Classic for me was the
What
best.
about Arnold Classic?
I don't care. For me, Flex Wheeler 93 Arnold Classic was the best physique ever to this day on any bodybuilding stage.
I know.
My opinion.
Flex doesn't think so.
I don't care what Flex thinks. It's my opinion. It's my favorite.
It's my opinion.
If I had to choose a picture, and you remember that picture, Flex, that I posted one time, that kneeling, twisting shot?
The guy.
That's the best.
Look at me,
from
goosebumps.
Germany.
Goosebumps.
Yeah,
No, that
from
was
Germany. What's Busak? What's his name?
Albert.
Yeah, Albert Busak.
Yeah. He still won't give me the rights to that. I'm like, dude, you're gonna pass
Oh,
away.
so that shot's from him?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's probably the best shot in history of bodybuilding.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I remember
If Chris would have only been a homie to me
So Chris,
and told me what he was going to tell me, I blame that all on Chris.
Yeah, we trying to beat each other.
Come on,
You
man.
trying to get
But I
bigger and
told
bigger
you
and bigger. I'm like,
everything.
okay.
so Flex.
I told you everything, though. I thought we were like sharing information and then seeing whoever the best win. Chris held back on me, man.
Okay, listen, can you know how traumatized a guy would be looking at this food trainer's back? Every fiber in his back is showing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know how you look at that all the
There's
time.
no excuse, man. You held back,
Like, look
dog.
at this guy, man. It's like,
So Flex, you think that 98 Arnold was your best?
Yeah.
I just seen better than I saw the 98 was because I was in the room with him and I was like, holy shit.
You know what? I just think 93. I would match. If I was in match 93, 98, and then the 99 English Grand Prix. The 93 version, I would be too small.
You going for this, but we just mentioned all the little side enhancements that guys did. If I go off of the real flex wheeler, unenhanced. I'm not talking about a couple of D-balls and shit. That physique right there showed me everything.
No bodybuilder under 220 could beat that.
Showed me every detail there is on the human body is seen that day. I don't think there's another. Yeah, you had bigger shoulders in '98 and all that. Yeah, you were bigger.
99 British Grand Prix flex and 93 flex on the stage. Judges judging.
Yeah,
who wins?
Of course, the bigger bodybuilder wins. But if you ask me what picture am I going to put in my house, I'll put 93 on top of 99.
I didn't ask you what you put in your house. I asked you what best version of what.
Maybe because I feel a little connected to his 93 version. Because I remember exactly, 93 was my first bodybuilding show. And hold on one second. I flew to England for the Mr. Universe. 1993 was my first one. And I bought the Flex magazine. And there was the Arnold Classic Pictures in there. And I'm looking at that shit. And I was like, how the fuck can someone look like this? Now, I think I'm a bodybuilder, and I'm going to a show in Mr. Universe, you know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at these pictures from 1993, you know, and I'm telling myself, it's like, how is this even possible? Maybe that's why, because that was the first thing, and I never forgot looking at these pictures that a person can look the way you did in 93. And I didn't know.
The only thing I regret about 93, back then it wasn't a big thing about squeezing your glutes.
Right. And
just nobody, you go back in history, nobody, Arnold, nobody, you just let your asses sag, you know, it just.
But even though you didn't squeeze your glutes, you had striated glutes and you could see it in a lot of poses.
But I just wish I would have squeezed to see what they really look like, you know.
Listen, as lean as you were, I know your ass was ripped. I don't care if you flex it or not.
It was about that big.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you contracted it, before you went down into the auditorium, me, you, and Rico.
I came up and I showed you guys. Feel it, man.
Look at this shit. He's like,
hey. I literally came all the way into the audience grab both of them and have them grab my ass. I'm like, feel it, look at it.
Grab it.
There's certain things that any bodybuilder, even 20 years after a career, that you have that you just never forget. Things that you see, and that was, like I said, you in the magazine, Flex magazine for the Arnold. That was Milo's when I saw him at the fucking FIBO wearing black and white striped hot skins. You know what I'm saying? Well, I couldn't believe that this is even possible to have legs like this. And that was Chris at the Iron Man when he pointed at me, even though I had nothing to do with nothing. That was Chris when he turned around and he had these knots in his fucking hamstrings. I was like, what the fuck? Those are the moments that I remember. You know what I'm saying? And then he walks off stage and he points at me like
yeah. Chris had some weird. Chris had some weird hamstrings. Yeah. The most different hamstrings I ever seen. It's no other hamstrings like Chris at all. Just the two massive separation are like two big knots. Chris even used to use them in his escapades with women. You know?
Shut up, man. Look at this. See, I got so much stuff in my head. I'm gonna let a little bit funnel out here and there, but hey, but listen, remember Flex when we were amateurs and we were in what was it, Pittsburgh for the Nationals, and we was going against. I'm trying to go natural. Ronnie was in it. Quadzilla was in it. That's the one that Kevin LeBron won.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm at the weigh-ins. You back at the room. We was roommates, and I was like, I saw Kevin walk through the damn auditorium. Like,
yeah.
Was that still with the ponytail?
Yeah.
He had the chaps coming out. He had the boat neck. Coming through like Mike Tyson. I was like a great boat neck. I never forget. I went back to the room. I was like, Flex.
We in trouble.
Yeah, like but Flex was like the front runner. He was like the Michael Jacksons. I would just fucking.
No, I remember. You were like, Flex, man, you look good, but bro, Man, this dude, he looked like a Prizzo.
Already. He's already a Prizzo. That's
I
what
was like,
I'm
what the hell? I'm like, man, what the hell
I
are
was
you
like-
saying?
I was like, let's think about another show, man, because this is over.
That was in 92.
Yeah.
91.
Yeah, I was
I said, this
92.
show is
Yeah.
over, bro.
Yeah,
I
the
saw
Nasser.
it.
Hold on, hold on.
Like,
As far as
Yeah.
I remember, that was 91, right? Because Flex won
92.
California.
It was
Oh,
91.
91.
It was
91.
91.
91.
But I want to ask you
And
now,
we did
guys.
the
I want to
USA
ask.
that year too.
I want to ask Flex if this is the truth because I kind of remember the story. You won 89 in California. I was there. You know, you won overall. You were light heavy and overall. But then, you know, everybody saw your potential. But then you didn't win. You know, you're losing to Kevin or
The
you know.
junior nationals.
So 92 USA, basically, you made an announcement. If you don't win pro card, you quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you showed up looking crazy. I think that 92 USA, I mean, John Sherman was good, obviously. He
Yeah.
was, but that was when
Nobody
you
was close.
really set the pace.
You know what? Honestly, that was the only difference, the only change. That was the first time I started using growth hormone. I started using 1 cc a day.
One unit.
Yeah, 1 unit. One unit a day.
I don't want-
That was the only difference.
I don't want the listeners.
You did like-
I don't want the
you did
listeners
like
to
2 or
load
3
up.
You did 2 or 3 shows in a row. Like you were just like coming, getting a little better, getting closer. But we all trained hard that year, man. We was falling asleep in the posing room. When this guy ain't going, I'm like, I can't even stay awake because it's so steamy and hot in the
Yeah.
posing room. And we were like, if we missed a workout, that was like a cardinal sin. That was like,
Okay, so
No, we
you
were
got-
hard on each other as training
Hard to
partners.
say.
So you
Yeah.
guys were close even before you turned pro. So Chris,
Before we turned-
question for
Yeah.
you. Question for you. What year did you tell yourself, even though you probably didn't tell it to him, but you didn't say nothing to him, what year did you tell yourself, I'm gonna get him this year?
well, he broke his neck. So I'm gonna get his ass back.
What an asshole.
No, he was in a car wreck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was ahead of me, you know, for a while. It was like I felt like, you know, this guy has some body parts that, you know, mine didn't look like that. I needed time to fill out more, but his frame was a lot more compact than mine, so he was able to pop out, you know, a lot sooner than me. But then he had got hurt. I mean, the thing is though, we had a lot of love for each other, but you could not say anything about this guy without me coming at you pretty hard.
Yeah. Vice
So we
versa.
we was in tears, man. You know, on his bedside. You know,
Man.
but he was, you know, he was
So
tough.
it was the after my accident, you felt that gave you time to catch up?
You remember? Yeah, remember we was in the Waldorf Astoria together. I said, Flex, hit the most muscular way.
Are you a bad? Yeah, I'm like,
He
you're
was
an
like,
asshole.
so we had a mirror like this. He was all small and shit. I was all small. I was like,
No,
Remember?
you're an asshole.
you remember?
Yeah, you're an asshole. You did that on stage too. After my first show, I came back. After the car accident, you kept tapping me. Come on, man, hit this show, hit this pose, And I'm like, oh man, you're an asshole.
Come on, Flex, let's do heavy shrugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here is a question that I'm dying to ask in front of the people because nobody believes the story that you said to Ronnie Coleman in 1995 what to take, and that 95 was first year that he used steroids. Do you remember how that went? It's Ronnie claimed that until 95 he was drug free, and then he talked to you, and you guided him exactly what to do.
Yeah.
95?
Yeah.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
Isn't that like also one of your greatest regrets?
No. No, honestly, listen, listen, I didn't said this a few times. Listen, the Olympia, I understand now. I won't get into it too, deeply or whatever, but I understand now it was never meant for me to win. It was just something that wasn't meant for to happen for me. It's like we all have kids. So imagine your kid trying to, stick a needle into a socket, and you're like, no, you can't do that, because we know better. So for me, I had so many mental problems, and I remember I was suicidal my whole career. Even as an amateur, I would go home and try to kill myself. So as I got better and more and made more money, and I just got worse. I just my demons just chased me more and more. So I understand now that if I would have won that final title and got, transported in that stratosphere, I wouldn't be here anymore. I would have taken my life because I was so close, always of taking my life anyway. That's the reason why I drove that so fast. I mean, that's why the reason why I did things so recklessly is because I was inadvertently just trying to take my life. And then I would come home and I would just like shoot my weapon in my home just to try to get used to the noise so I could use it against myself. So and then the other thing is remember, I come from a fight background, and as a fighter, you always want that fighter to be at his best. So there's no excuse. And then I want to wipe the floor with you as a fighter and hold your hand up and have you say that you're at your best. So for me, is this, everybody told me theirs. I mean, I got to sit in a room and talk to Rich Gasperi, about posing and everything. Everybody was honest with me. So like all of you guys, if I talked to you guys about anything I'd done, I was just honest. So I didn't know that was going to happen, but I just feel that was in Ronnie's cards to happen. It was just, I mean, his work ethics and everything, was just crazy.
Just from knowing you over the years, Flex, I always thought, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And even Dorian, he was just like, yeah, I just wanted to talk to Flex. He thought that you had what it took physically, genetically to beat him, but he thought mentally that you wasn't as strong as him, and he thought that that's all he needed to know about you. I thought just by being in your corner, in your camp, a close friend, I just thought like, we had a lot of deep conversations over
Yeah,
years.
of course.
It was like, when you would start, eating before the show and stuff, having these burgers, some of it was like, on the outside, you were like, oh, I can eat this burger and get away with it. But in actuality, it was more like, like shooting yourself in the foot. Like
being self-destructive.
Yeah.
100%.
So you don't have to go that extra. I mean, it was right there for the taking. Everybody knew, 98 was going to be yours. So almost like, when a person is afraid of the success.
100%. No, because I mean, people would always say, oh, Flex never trained hard, because they would see my training videos where I'm laughing on my plane. But that I trained hard. We all trained hard. We didn't let each other get away with not training hard. But I've said it before, I was just terrified of being number one. If it was the Arnold or the Iron Man, I'm going to that show hot, smoking, and it was like, it's my house. Can't nobody come and take this from me. But if it was Olympia, I just geared down. I'm like, man, I'm trying to hold second down. I just didn't believe it. And I even said to you guys a long time ago, it was 98. I was laying in a room with some other guys, and they were talking about how good they were. And I knew that they wouldn't even make top 10. And they were talking about how hard they're trained and how they're going to win. And I remember it dawned on me, like, how come these guys can believe that they can win? And here I am, one of the best, and I won't even believe it. And I was just so angry, but I knew it was too late, So I went on stage and I posed like I was a champion, but I knew I wasn't 100%. But in 99, that's why I thought I edged him out, because he wasn't as good as he was in 98. And I'd made a 17-pound increase in muscle and everything. So at that point, that's why I thought I'd won. But then I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Because he won by a perfect score then. And I was like, wow, how does he win by a perfect score? He's not 100% and I'm more of 100% than me. But I was like, oh, okay, it's out of reach for me now. And then I just mentally told me, okay, don't go for number one anymore. Just try to shut everybody else down and hold on to number two. And I knew everybody's always angry with me about it, but it was my way of just saying, no, the sport has never happened where you came and took a title away from a Mr. Olympia before. That hadn't happened before. So, yeah, that was just my thoughts. But you're right. I self-destruct. You know, that's why I would dress a certain way so I can go to a strip club after training. You know, I even remember, you know, it was sad because I couldn't understand her, but Madeline would always say, I'd always get to a certain look and I would shut down and be like, okay, I got it. I won. And she'd always like, why don't you continue dieting it so we could see what you really look like? And I'd be like, but why? You know, that doesn't make any sense. And now you have everybody. That's what they do. They get in shape and they continue pushing and they shape. It changes and their condition changes more and more. And I just never understood why people would say, like, why don't you keep dieting? But like, no, but this is good enough to win. And now, like I said, I just regret. And every photo that I see is like, wow, I didn't push myself. You know, I didn't push myself at all.
I mean, you did. We just had there's chinks in the armor, you know?
Yeah, I was self-destruct after. So I would push hard all the way up until maybe 2 weeks before the show. And like I said, I knew I had to look then. I knew it's like, hey, somebody got to come get me, you know, and I would write on my mirror, you know, game over. And then I would just sit down and I would just start eating different food and stuff like that. And you guys knew it because I was really sodium sensitive. I'd come in the gym and my face would be like puffy, you know, and the day before I'd be all sunken in.
I remember.
And I'd try to walk in the gym, sucking in my cheeks like this.
He didn't shot his gun off in the house.
I remember Charles
he
Glass.
got a Desert Eagle, Dennis. He shot the gun off in the house. I'm like, God.
I remember, what was it, 98? I think it was 98, just before the USA's. And I was training with Charles at Venice, and I would ask him because I know he trained all you guys and was still training with you guys. And I was like, yeah, you know, is Flex going to win the Olympia? You know, because he was the favorite, absolutely favorite. There was there was nobody else they talked about that could even challenge you. You know, I mean, nobody ever thought about Ronnie at that point.
Nasser was...
Yeah, but nobody thought Nasser could challenge Flex.
And Nasser took second, but he didn't have the body of Flex.
No, Nasser took second in '97. Yeah. So anyway, and then we I never forget. That's another thing that I never forget. Just meeting Charles. And Charles said, yeah, I hope if we can stay away from fucking eating cheeseburgers. And then he was like, and then he told me, he said, why? Why would he eat cheeseburgers? He said, yeah, he would just sometimes sneak off and have a cheeseburger. He said, and I would always know, because he would come in looking like, you don't have to ask no questions. You would know he went to cheeseburger. And then,
Dennis, you know how people would cheat on their diet and they're going to drive-through and get what they're going to get. This fool would double back on their ass.
It was a couple of times. It was a couple of times. I'd be like just about to pull out, and I'm done with the cheeseburger. I'm like, damn, let me swing back around. It's like, hey, Dennis, it's like that time I was over your house and you were eating Doritos. Like, damn, you really can't just eat one. You know, I got to eat the whole bag up. You know, you just one tastes so good, 10 tastes even better. You know?
Yeah. But see, I never had that issue when it comes to dieting for sure. That wasn't even on my mind. Matter of fact, you know, I always had a cheat meal the day I arrived in the U.S. Because Milos would come pick me up from the airport, and we would go straight from the airport. We would go to IHOP, and I would order the big steak omelet with the Harvest and Grain pancakes, which I no longer have, by the way, and that was my coming off the plane, get it out your system, and that's it.
Yeah, then shut it back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, I would do something like 2 weeks out too. I'll have like pizza and a piece of cake or donut or whatever.
And that was more than 2 weeks out. I mean, I wouldn't come the last 2 weeks. That was like 2 months out, a month and a half, So I was never like that. I don't know. See, 'cause listen to Flex. He would go in the drive-thru, order, and then he would pull back around and get another one.
Flex, you said something very important that I think that you can give a message maybe to somebody like Samson, right? Who is exceptional bodybuilder, right? You just mentioned in your speech that you're there, you feel you are good enough. Why suffer a little bit more? You just mentioned all that stuff. Why dig deeper? Because this is good enough, right? And now you said that you wish you went that extra.
Oh yeah.
Just so you can see it,
Yeah. I mean, that's what that's what the sport is really all about. Just trying to be at your best, and just trying to push the limit. If you are the best, you should be competing against yourself, trying to be better than you were. And I just never tried to compete against my own self and be better than I was. And I just distinctly remember just getting in intense arguments with Madam because she would be like hell bent, like, why don't you continue? It doesn't make any sense. Let's see. I want to see. Don't you want to see it? I'm like, no, I don't care. She goes, well, I want to see. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. You're not a judge,
Yeah.
But she was a bad son of a gun to deal with anyway. But
Yeah.
even like we're trying to talk to the next generation, it's like we don't want you to make the same. You just want the best out of them. But you see, some of these guys do not want to go the extra mile with the posing, with the training, with the pain that it all entails. But just from my experience and what you see that person can do, you want them to believe, to push that extra mile. Because there was no holding back when it came to all of that with us. You're going to go 10 rounds or whatever, how many rounds we're trying to accomplish. There was no backing out of it. That's just what was going to happen. And I would just like the next generation, gravitate towards getting all of the most out of the work that it entails to be the best in the world.
Well, like you said, they should learn from our mistakes and our stories, the things that especially that we're being more open about now that we wouldn't be before. Those are things that they should learn from, and try to emulate, because they try to emulate our error anyway. So continue emulating that error by learning from our mistakes.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Just to add on this one, when somebody has plenty of size, he can spare some. But we all have to come in that crazy condition. We've never seen ourselves like, holy shit, this is first time when you get the leanest you've ever been, like, oh, but then next day you're even leaner. And then you continue, and next day you're even leaner. That's when you get that, how far I can go. And I'm glad that you said it, Flex, because I know that Chris also did the same thing a few times. I'm good enough to beat these fools, right? So
had to be fools too.
Yeah.
Had to be fools.
The way I talk sometimes. That's all.
Because you guys were superior guys that they can get away with it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that Flex, you said that extra little drive to get yourself peeled out of your mind, like Dennis loves your 93 look. That kind of look on anybody that is.
And you know what? I didn't think it was possible, but then we had Ronnie come along that actually had crazy size and crazy detailed, right? I just didn't think that the two are possible. I remember talking to Steve Weinberg. I was like, oh, well, I can't be as shredded this big. And he goes, yes, you can. He goes, yes, you can. If you put your mind to it, you could. Yeah. And I always just thought it wasn't possible. And then Ronnie came along and did that. But, you learn, I don't know why, like I said, it was just some mental handicap that just made me just think I could never be number one. Everything else I fought to be number one. Martial arts, I fought to be number one. I knew I could be number one, but just I don't know what it was about bodybuilding. I was just scared of just that title of just being the best. I was just so much pressure. And I remember '98, just all the talks, all the magazines, they're saying my name was on a trophy and everything. And I would probably make most people inspired. But for me, that was just crushing weight on my shoulder. I just couldn't take it. I didn't want to hear it. I couldn't, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to believe, and I would just do everything I could to sabotage myself.
That's funny. People think they have pressure now because of social media. We had a different type of pressure. We had a pressure of the fanfare that you had to contact through writing a letter back and forth. That was our connection. Was fan mail, and when you do interviews, and you got your family, you're trying to take care of, you're trying to make money,
and the pressure of holding on to a contract because you don't get a sponsorship because you placed well. Like today, you get a sponsorship because you have the followers. Exactly. So it doesn't matter if you compete or not. So that was a different pressure.
Whole nother pressure.
Yeah. So,
that was the biggest pressure.
The pressure
is just trying to compete and keep your contract. Because remember, we didn't let you go. I mean, you could. I got dropped, from being in a car accident that wasn't even my fault. So, I mean, you get dropped, So.
Yeah. So if you look at the lineup today, this is a question I ask usually people because I want to know what they think. I don't want to know who your favorite guy is today. I want to know who's your favorite physique. If you look at the whole lineup, who stands out the most to you?
When you say that, like with the most potential?
No, as you look as they're presenting themselves, who is your favorite body that you see on stage? It doesn't matter what category.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know the name. It's a few guys. I don't know their names. They're not in bodybuilding. They're in classic physique. Yeah, classic physique. Because, I mean, some of the guys, they are aware, they do have the ability to carry, an extreme amount of muscle and condition. And that was the closest back to our era. Because remember, back in our era, it was condition first.
Yeah. Do you know one?
Size, and then kind of Dorian changed that.
Do you know one name?
No.
Really? So where did you see him? What show stands out? Maybe we can figure out who it is.
Right. It was the Olympia.
The Olympia last year?
Yeah.
So was it a top 5 guy or?
Yeah.
Was it second, third?
It was a guy, I think he was either from China or Thailand or something like that.
Huh? In the top 5?
Maybe it wasn't Olympia.
Okay. So it wasn't Mike Sommerfeld.
No.
It's an Asian guy. There is only that Korean guy, maybe Baki at Arnold Classic.
The one that got 5th.
Yes, it's a 6th.
Would it be
5th or 6th, yeah.
Branch Chin?
Oh, that's a few years back. With the huge legs.
Okay, let's make it easier for fun. Let's make it easier. In the open, who's your favorite physique?
And I would probably have to go with, because of just what he's done with his physique in the last couple of years, it would have to be Samson. Yeah, just this, just him showing, is for one, what he had to go through, and then you look back and you see he played soccer, so you can kind of, I'm looking at those pictures and I'm like, I can't even see that guy in him. It's like Incredible Hulk, you don't see that in David Banner. Mm-hmm. And then as he started growing, and then he had problems for a while, and once he just stepped outside of that, it was just the size and condition was amazing, especially at the Olympia. Not so much at the Arnold Classic this year, but especially at the Olympia, it was like wow. And still, I'm still wishful and hopeful that there's still time for Andrew, because I mean he still is the most complete and beautiful physique up there. It's just again, I don't know if there's something mental going on or if he just needs to just huddle down and stick with one coach long enough for that coach to to figure out the ups and downs of the physique. Because you got some guys that'll be with a coach, and if they don't win, they'll go to another coach, and they're just dick hopping, all over the place. It's just like a groupie.
What is it, dick hopping?
Like, yes. I'm sorry, that's geez, wow. Yeah. Wow. Let me climb back out of that, guy. Yeah, they're just not being having any type of just dedication with that person. So for some guys, it takes a while to figure out their physiques, and you got to be there for a minute. Like you look at Flex Lewis, how long he was with his one coach. He hung it out until they figured it out. So
right.
I still hope there's time for him, but he's not the youngest chicken in the world, and it doesn't seem like he's making those type of gains where we can say like, wow, we're seeing it. We're starting to see it. So
I just saw something with Chris. You might know because you Carlos switched coaches.
Yeah, but now I'm hearing that was just a rumor or some shit.
Oh, okay, that's why I'm asking. I didn't want to say nothing, but so it's because I think that
I never heard who. I just heard it was a rumor.
Okay, yeah.
What?
That's, somebody wrote made a video of Carlos switching coaches, like literally from the Arnold now to Detroit. That wouldn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I think it was more.
Did you talk to him after the show?
I talked to the pilot. I didn't talk to Junior.
Oh.
But yeah, I talked to him again. He said, "No, it's a rumor that someone said."
But how does he feel about the Arnold, his placing and his condition and everything? How does he feel?
Obviously, he wished he could have been a little tighter. I mean, everyone could see he could be a little tighter, but some of it is not even really the diet. I think some of it is the posing can improve more.
You think a lot of new muscle that's not much mature yet?
He's young still. It's a lot of that more so than just the diet, I think.
One thing that guys don't understand that they can really help with their physique is the posing. Your muscle matures so much, you learn how to command it. You see some guys, they'll pose and they'll be shaking. You get over all that in a posing room, and then it's like your serratus, how you blow down really hard. After a while of just being in that posing room, you just slightly bloat, and it's like,
yeah,
and it's like a muscle control. It's just, I think that's probably the quickest way you can accelerate your muscle maturity. It's just being in that room, squeezing and posing over and over and over. And remember, Chris, we used to put in. Back then, it was a CD or a cassette tape.
VHS, yep.
Yeah, we would put one of those in and pose to the whole damn thing non-stop. So, I would play like just the A side and just like the whole song, Luther Vandross, this whole CD, non-stop. So throughout that, you learn how to do different transitions. You learn how to take a pose and make it into another pose, but also that's the only way that you push yourself as close as you could be to being on stage, because it doesn't matter. You walk on stage and immediately you're overwhelmed. And for me, the first round would always be the hardest round because I'm out of breath, and I'd have to tell myself, dude, you've been here before. Yeah. You're in shape, relax. And then the second round, I would relax and I would cool off and my body would be better. But posing is just like, man, it's just, I remember Labrada, he taught me that. He's like, dude, he goes, you diet all day. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, you train all day. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, how can you not pose? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, it's the most important part of it, And I'm like, that makes sense. And I start going in there, and that's when we start going in the posing room, 5 weeks out from a show, 5 days or 6 days a week in that room. And I remember it'd be like, and that's one of the hardest things. You're 5 weeks out. For me, there's no definition showing whatsoever. And you're squeezing, you're trying to do an ab shot, and it's just like a bucket down there. There ain't nothing. You're doing a front lat spread, nothing's flaring. But it'd be like a pool of water for me down there. I would just be drenched and just over and over and over, just posing. But that's probably one of the hardest things to do that most people won't do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it these years, though. People don't want to do it.
Then it's just a funny thing because I know them. They could pose whatever song you play. They have to pose. Doesn't matter what it is. That was the deal, right?
Yeah.
So I am once Rimini with Chris Cormier posing in like a Fibo, right? So and I forgot my CD. So I told this guy, just play, Chris's music, right? So I come on stage, right, already, whatever it is, I'm gonna pose. It's fucking 2 minutes of talking rap. Hey, bro, what the fuck was that? I was a complete fool. 2 minutes, I didn't know what to do.
You're like, what the-
At that moment, you should have turned around and you just shake that ass. That's it.
Oh man.
Well, listen, guys, that brings us to the end. Flex, I appreciate you making the time, my man. Thank you so much.
That was awesome, Flex. Thank you.
That's
brother.
an honor. And it's an honor.
So-
Going back down memory lane.
That's
you
it.
know.
That's it. And this is what the people want to hear, man. The cold truth and nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the
know.
truth.
We also want to know how you're doing, Flex.
Yeah.
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Still dealing with my health problems and everything like that. As far as my leg, probably doesn't hurt maybe 10% of what it used to. So it's a lot more manageable.
Good.
So that just
Good, man.
that just took so much weight off of me. I don't have no thoughts of harming myself whatsoever. Haven't had thoughts like that in probably over 2 years. So that's an amazing monkey off my back. I know I've been brutally honest with Chris the last couple of times, and I had him worried about me, but no, I'm great. It's amazing, man. Life is beautiful. It's great. Yeah, it's great.
Good, brother.
You're still in Vegas, right?
Yeah, still in Vegas. Yeah.
Are you traveling at all?
I haven't yet. I got supposedly Russia, but that's really interesting. I'm a little concerned about going there right now. But I'm supposed to go to.
You might want to be on Air Force One to go there.
Yeah. I don't know from what they just said that Putin just freaking stabbed Trump in the back and just said he ain't signing no ceasefire deal and all this stuff. So I don't know, man.
I just saw on the YouTube they said that they think that it needs to end. So
well, I thought they have a deal. I thought they're keeping what they have right now.
Table,
so
right?
whatever they have so far, it stays Russian, and then that's it. But it hasn't been signed, so we don't know. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I don't know about Russia, to be honest, at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that, man. I'd love to go back to Russia. Great people.
Yeah.
Great history. I remember the first time I was in the Red Square and we were just sitting there and just people were just coming up thinking like, Stan, thank you so much for coming to Russia and everything. And, they're talking about, the food lines that they had to stand in and kids would like stand in line for hours and their parents would come back, because there was no groceries. It's like, man, we don't know how hard times are. Some of the things that these other countries have been through.
Yeah. Well, keep us posted, brother.
All right, for sure.
And
Thank you, man. I appreciate
hopefully
all
we
you
all
guys.
get together soon. So
man.
y'all be
That was
safe.
cool, brother.
Peace
All right,
out.
peace.